Welcome to the NFL Pick'em Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Pick'em Show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. If you want to bet the games this weekend, go to thegruelingtruth.net, click on the banner, MyBookie.ag, take you right there. You win this weekend, you get paid within 48 hours. I'm your host for the Pick'em Show, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I want to welcome in my co-host. We'll start off with Matt Andruscavage. How you doing, Matt?
I am great. How are you?
I'm great also. Next up, we've got Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
I'm always doing good. Every day I'm doing good. Beautiful day.
All right, and of course, as always, we've got former Denver Bronco, Tampa Bay Buccaneer, played in Super Bowl 21, started in front of John Elway. So, yes, he is part of the reason John Elway is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Help me welcome to the show, Mark Cooper.
Hey, somebody had to make him famous for his scrambling ability.
And next up, we've got a special guest tonight. Alex Golden couldn't make it tonight. Our guest tonight was a NFL quarterback with the Bengals, the Eagles, and the Browns. And the thing that really drew him to my attention was the fact that Matt can tell you when we did our draft show, or actually before the draft show, I wasn't a huge fan of Patrick Mahomes. Thought his footwork was bad. And then I know I did the NFL preview show with Randy Cross, and I brought up to him through the preseason that I thought Mahomes looked 100% better. And I found out that this man was the quarterback guru that helped him also to coach for Jimmy Garrapolo. Help me welcome to the show, Jeff Christensen.
How are you guys? Good?
All right, we're doing great, Jeff. Matt, who won last week?
Well, I know I went 2-2. I think I lost both the Saturday games, but I was right on the Sunday games. Mike, you were 3-1, so you picked up a game. And Schmitty, I think you picked the same games I did.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure
what
we were
about
both 2-2.
Did we just leave Coop out?
Oh, my goodness.
And, well, I don't have my sheet in front of me, so I'm going off memory.
Coop, what were you last week?
Oh, I was 100% since you don't have the sheet.
All right, so Cooper was 0-4. All right, so for the year, Matt is up 2 games on Brian. He's up 3 games on me. But for the playoffs, I'm winning by a game, Matt, and playoffs are all that matters. So let's go ahead. What was your big?
Of course.
What was your big takeaway from? What was your big takeaway from this week, Mark Cooper?
I hate the Chiefs now.
I thought you always hated the Chiefs.
Titans. How do you? No, well, we played them a lot, and they're always a good football team to play against, and especially in Kansas City, it's tough to beat them there. But how do you let the Titans down 21 points come back and beat you in the second half? I mean, it just flabbergasted me. But the Bills, I guess they just blew up. The Falcons, they're I think on a Super Bowl revenge, and Cam didn't take it to the house like we expected, and Drew Brees may surprise all of us.
Well, I don't think he'll surprise all of us because I think everybody but you picked the Saints last week.
Oh, I picked the Saints? Are you kidding me?
I know.
You know how much I love Cam
I thought maybe you forgot since you didn't have the sheet. Brian.
Oh, I think pretty much we're all going to have kind of the same thing. The meltdown in Kansas City. That was amazing. I remember actually I didn't get to watch the first half, 21-3. I'm thinking, oh, this is not going to be good. And next thing I know, I'm sitting there and I'm going, wow, how did this game end up being 21-3 at halftime? Atlanta, LA, one of the things I know we talked about last week was, would LA struggle now this playoff time? And I think we saw that. But that's a team you got to look out for next year. They got their feet wet in the playoffs, and Atlanta looked like a good Atlanta team. We'll see where that carries them. New Orleans with a win that, quite honestly, going for it on that fourth down, that could have cost them. And Buffalo, Jacksonville, was that not one of the hardest games to watch? Just that first half almost made me take a nap.
All right.
That was pretty much my
I
whole
can
thing.
say this for somebody that knows Schmidt fairly well. It doesn't take much to get Schmidt to take a nap. Jeff.
That's true.
Jeff.
Yes.
What was your big takeaway from Wild Card Weekend?
Well, I think Cooper would be the first to acknowledge this. The thing, Georgia and Alabama, the Titans and the Chiefs. Once you go 3-and-out 3 times in a row, in the game today, especially in the second half, and offenses put together 9, 10, 11 play drives. I believe in the second half at one point the Chiefs have run 6 plays, the Titans have run 24.
Yeah.
And so once your defensive line, your defensive front 7 gets tired, and the floodgates are, it's going the wrong direction. You got to have a guy back there behind center that can pull a trigger that can bring you back from the abyss. The Fromm kid at Georgia overthrows one flat route, and it's almost like the game was over after he'd played so well in the first half. The same with Alex Smith. The kid drops a slant route on the right side of the field on 3rd and 6. They punt, and it was kind of like you could just kind of feel the tide turning. So, when things go awry like that, collectively as a unit, it's hard to get it back on track.
Yeah.
As far as the other games went, I kind of had it pegged. I thought that's about how they'd all play out. I thought Buffalo would give them a run, and on sure emotion, and they just couldn't. They couldn't convert any third downs. So the other 2 games, I had them both hit. I have New Orleans going to the Super Bowl. I don't think in the Dome in Minnesota will bother Drew Brees at all, and I think Atlanta will win this weekend too.
Well, don't pick the games yet, Jeff. We haven't got to that.
Oh, I'm
yet.
sorry. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, hell, Jeff, if you don't know what the hell you're doing, you're at the right place because none of us do.
I'll see you guys later.
You still got 2 other games to pick, Jeff.
I'll pick what Jeff picked and hang up. Okay.
All right, my big takeaways were this. The Atlanta Falcons defense is really good. I mean, their defensive backs are good. They're really athletic. Their defensive front's extremely good. And not to get ahead of myself, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Falcons play the Saints in the NFC Championship game. My other thing is the Kansas City Chiefs are the Cincinnati Bengals in red. And that's why I picked the Titans last week, because when you put them in a situation like that, they shit the bed more often than not. And they've lost their last 5 playoff games at home, and that's supposed to be a place where everybody says it's a tough place to win. But the other thing I take away from this, and this is the college game. Nick Saban, I think the last 2 weeks we've seen the teams that lost in overtime were teams that played it safe when they got the ball. They run twice. They throw a screen pass. Saban comes out, and they get sacked on the first play. They're all the way back on their, 40, 42-yard line. And I'm thinking, well, he's going to dink and dunk, try to get in field goal range. He comes back and immediately takes a shot to win the game. And Sean Payton, it backfired on him a little bit against the Saints, where they didn't get the first down. But I think there's a lot to be said, Coop, for a coach that's not afraid to win the game.
Hey, Mark Richt did it twice down at the University of Miami on big games and came away the same way. So I think it's kind of in vogue right now.
Yeah, unless you're in Oklahoma or Georgia. Let's start off with the first game. We've got the Atlanta Falcons on mybookie.ag are a 3-point favorite at Philadelphia. I'm going to start off with Jeff. Jeff, is Nick Foles good enough to get this done?
Well, I think he is. I just, the playoff football, I've been watching it for 20-some years, and it's kind of interesting how, even though guys are good enough, whether it be, play calling or guys around them, or it's inevitable, guys that aren't those dudes, Matt Ryan, those 4 throws a game that will be bang, bang plays. Guys that have been there before, it's amazing how they can just kind of do it, and guys that haven't been there enough, kind of just barely miss, and those barely misses usually result in a 27-24 type of deal. And I think the Falcons are on a roll, so I don't think it has as much to do with Foles as it does. I just think that the Falcons look really, really, really good against the Rams. I think they're kind of on a mission. So I anticipate a great game. I think Philadelphia could win. I don't think they will. So I'd have to say that the Falcons will win. 27-21, something like that.
All right, Coop. You got to give a score now because Jeff gave a score.
Oh,
we usually don't give. This is the thing, Jeff. We usually don't give scores because Coop went to Miami, so he's not real good with numbers.
Again, I don't know the rules. I'm just making it up.
No, I like that. I like giving a score, but like I said, Coop went to Miami. He has trouble with numbers sometimes. Good, Coop.
I'm writing down the score too,
Yeah,
so we'll revisit this next week.
All right.
Spot me a couple numbers, and I'll get it. I promise.
Atlanta, Philly. Coop.
The Falcons are on a mission, and Super Bowl hangover or whatever you want to call it. They didn't get it done. They got just outcoached and everything else. I think they're on a mission, and I really, really like the Eagles and their offensive line. So this is a tough one for me, but I like the Falcons' offensive line too. I mean, they've got some studs. So that this will be my favorite game because I'll be just doing nothing but staring at offensive linemen and watching their hands and feet and placement and all that stuff. So, Jeff, I'm opposite of you. You're watching the quarterbacks. I'm watching the O-line, but this is going to be my favorite game of the weekend. But I'm picking the Falcons. And would you pick, Jeff? 26-21.
27-21.
I'll take that. I'm good.
All right. You can't pick the same score. Damn, the new guy's supposed to be the one that does that, not the guy that's been here for a couple years, Coop.
I like Jeff. He coaches quarterbacks.
All right. My big thing here is this also, Coop. Not just you have two great offensive lines, you got two of the best defensive lines in football going against them.
Yeah, we don't talk about defensive linemen. They're a bunch of sissies, and they say you're holding them the whole game, and they cry to the refs, so we don't talk about them.
That's because you're usually holding them now. All right, Matt Andruscavage, Eagles, Falcons, and everybody needs to know that Becky the Eagles fan is now listening. She just sent a message of Go Eagles.
All right. Well, to me, this is the hardest game to pick, even more so than the other NFC game, only because the Eagles know that everyone is counting them out. And I really believe they're going to be up for this game, but I am also going to go with Atlanta. To me, Atlanta's secondary showed a lot last week. They were fantastic when they had to be, and I think it's going to be hard for Nick Foles to complete a lot of passes against the secondary, so they're going to have to run. So I would look for Atlanta to their front seven to play very well against the run, and if they do that, they should be able to keep Philadelphia from putting a lot of points on the board. And on the other side of the ball, I think Matt Ryan is going to be able to get enough points on the board to win the game. So I'm going to take Atlanta as well. I'm going to say 24-20.
All right. Next up, we got Brian, who is friends with Becky. So Becky's waiting to see if you're going to go against her team or not, Brian.
I know. I actually, as Matt was talking, I got a text.
Me too.
I better be taking photos.
On Spreaker, I got to go Eagles. So.
Yeah, I mean, apparently little Pookie is on a roll tonight. This is a tough game, but I'm if I wasn't 2 games back, I would pick Atlanta. But being 2 games back, and this being a game that I think has toss-up capabilities, I will take the Eagles, and I will say 24-21.
All right. I'm going to go with the Eagles, too. I'm 3 games back, but I think the game's a toss-up also. And last week, when I took games that I thought were toss-ups, I ended up beating Matt's butt. So I'm going to go with the Eagles, too. I think Foles is a good enough quarterback to get it done. I think the Eagles are a complete football team. They can run the ball. They're going to play at home. The crowd's going to be nuts. I think the record is Matt Ryan's like 1-4 in Philadelphia, which doesn't mean anything because they didn't play there this year, I don't believe. But I'm going to go with the Eagles to win the game 20-17. Also, Becky just put that she's the boss, and that's why you picked the Eagles. All right. The next game.
Wow.
I know. The next game, we've got the Tennessee Titans at the New England Patriots. Coop, the Patriots are favored by 13.5 points on mybookie.ag.
Hey, they ran out of all their magic last week when they beat the Chiefs. So, it's tough to go against Brady and Belichick, even though they're feuding a little bit and whining. But, man, I tell you, the Patriots are going to be tough. I mean, I'm looking forward to I guess I'll jump ahead, but a Patriots-Steelers championship game. So I'm excited about watching this AFC finish out. But boy, the Falcons and the Saints, if that becomes we're going to see two great division games here shortly.
All right, Matt, and the thing is here, Matt, because Coop just brought up the New England thing, and for all this crap that ESPN threw out there last week, and I know you read my article about it, I think 90% of it's bullshit. I think it's true what they say about Brady's personal trainer not getting rid or getting along with Belichick. But the one thing I do notice is this. ESPN today reported that Matt Patricia is now a leading candidate to be the Giants head coach. So, I mean, which one is it, ESPN? Are they on the outs? And, Coughlin, as they reported last Friday, may be going to the Giants. And if he wasn't, he was going to send Josh McDaniels there. And then today they report that Matt Patricia might be the head coach there, and he's a leading candidate. So overall, Matt, I think that ESPN, as normal, is full of crap.
Yeah, it always looks that way. It's if I'm not really sure about it, I'm going to err on the side of they're just saying whatever. There's probably something going on in that. In the front office, there could be some seated animosity somewhere, but I don't think it's nearly as blown as what ESPN said. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. But in this game, I think that whole story is going to really affect this game in the sense that New England's going to be out to prove that they're all on the same page. They're going to try to do it on the field and take everything out on the Tennessee Titans. And I think Tennessee won last week because of two things. Number one, the drop passes, like Jeff brought up, and then the other thing is Kareem Hunt only got the ball 11 times. He's pretty much the leading rusher. He's like in the top three, I think. And I just don't think you're going to see that in New England. Belichick isn't going to make those mistakes. I think the Patriots will hang on to the football, and if it comes time where they got to run the clock out, they're going to feed Deion Lewis, James White, and Rex Burkhead the ball.
All right,
so I'm going to pick New England.
Yeah, you got to pick a score, too, because I don't think Coop picked a score.
Yeah, I'm going to say 31-17.
Coop, you got a score?
31-17.
All right, Jeff, you cannot say 31-17. It's a rule. What do you think? Tennessee at New England.
17-31. No, I think this whole thing with Mariota and his interceptions, he got away with an interception last week and it didn't cost him. He missed the guy wide open for the touchdown. Next play throws the strike. So he's kind of hit or miss. The thing about Mariota that's interesting to me, he's got the second highest rating in the history of football for red zone quarterback rating. He's thrown no interceptions in some ridiculous amount of whatever. So he doesn't make mistakes in the red zone. So if they'll feed their running game, their offensive line is completely healthy. I believe Coop. I don't think they have anybody down, and they have a nasty offensive line. I think it could possibly be a good game. I just have a feeling about it. No big deal. I think the Patriots will probably pull it out. Whenever it seems to me, whenever there's a lot of stuff going on around the game, and I'll tell you something else I don't like. I think the last 3 or 4 years, the team that gets the bye, to me, it's been kind of a disadvantage because notoriously they don't start fast. and they don't play their starters very much in the last game if they have the Division one. I think that really hurt the Rams because in essence when they came back they hadn't played for 3 weeks, the starters. So Belichick did play his guys, which I think was smart the last game. So I look for the Patriots to win, but I would say more along the lines of it's going to be cold there, I believe. So I would say something like 27-20. I'll go 30-24.
All right. I agree.
24. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. I think this could be a closer game. I think Mariota can do some stuff with his feet. But I think in the end, I think this game may be close for a little while. But I think the problem is going to be this. If they can stop Tennessee's run at all, and they're down to one really good running back, are they both healthy this week, Matt, or do we know yet?
No, we already heard that DeMarco Murray's been ruled out.
All right, so I think this is what happens. I think you've got Bill Belichick. He's a veteran coach. I think he's going to stick 8 or 9 on the box. He's going to make Mariota beat him. I don't think Mariota can beat him. I'm going to say New England 37, Tennessee 20. Brian?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a game that I think Tennessee can stick around for a while, kind of like what Houston did last year. Stick around first half. But I just don't think that over the course of the game they're going to be able to hang with that, and and it sets up the showdown next week for New England to end their season. So I'm going to pick New England 31.5 and Tennessee 17.5.
All right. That sounds like somebody who used to be on this show that's no longer theirs pick. The next game, I'm not going to say any names, but if you used to listen to the show, you know who he is, and I know he's listening, so I'm not going to say his name. The next game, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are favored by 7, and of course, since Brian is our resident Steeler fan, we're going to let Brian go first.
Black and gold, baby. We got Mr. Brown back. If you're Ben in this after that 5 interception deal back early in the season, I mean, you got to want this game and come out and do the things they've done offensively. I have my concern, and we've kind of just touched on this with New England, is a lot of these guys have not played now in 2 weeks. So what kind of start are they going to get?
Well, it's been 3 weeks for Ben, right? He didn't play against Cleveland at all.
No, he didn't play against Cleveland, and then the bye week last week, so that'd be 2 weeks.
3 weeks. End of this week. It's like 20 days.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you want to get technical. But I still think Pittsburgh will win this. I think they'll win it 38-13.
All right, Matt?
I'm thinking this could be a little bit closer of a game. I think Pittsburgh might show just a little bit of rust being off. But ultimately, when you got Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and the weapons that they have, I just don't really see them losing. But I do think Jacksonville makes things tough for them. So I'm going to go Pittsburgh 30, Jacksonville 20, and they'll get a late field goal to extend that lead to put it out of reach.
Yeah, my whole question in this game, Jeff, is can Blake Bortles get this done? I mean, the way he played last week, they're not going to Pittsburgh and win, but he did have a month during the season where he threw for 8 touchdowns and no picks, so he is capable of playing good football.
Yeah, it's a weird situation for me and a weird topic, and I know a lot about the situation, and he's erratic at different times for, I think, different reasons. I think Jacksonville's defense is real. What Pittsburgh wants to do plays into Jacksonville's strength. I think Todd Haley's far too wise to fall for it. Ben, the 20 days off, the one person that won't bother is him. The offensive line, the rhythm of the blocking scheme, so on and so forth. But I think that they got the the weapons that they can go 4 wide, they can go shotgun 3-by-1, they can go empty if they want with Ben, and he can kind of pick them apart. The sheer factor, the sheer raw emotion of them playing for him, I think it's about as genuine as I could ever imagine. They love that kid. I look for their defense to play really, really well. So I'd say Pittsburgh 24-10.
All right, Coop.
Hey, Brian, what score did you pick? What score did you pick?
38-15.
Dang. You think they're going to whoop them that bad?
I do.
He's a Steelers fan, remember. They have no concept of sanity.
Like I said earlier when I was talking about the Patriots, I like the Steelers. I like their offense. I like their defense. I like their offensive line. I like Ben. I mean, Ben, one thing about Ben, man, when it's playoff time, he's almost like a whole nother quarterback. So I don't know about 38-15, man. I'm thinking maybe 27-21. I think it might be a little closer. But I certainly like to see the Steelers and the Patriots go at it the following week. So I'm picking the Steelers.
All right, I'm 3 games back, so I'm picking the Jaguars. I sure to hell wasn't going to pick Tennessee, but I think Jacksonville can win this game. And the simple fact is this: Pittsburgh's pass defense, it is better when Joe Hayden's there. But on top of that, I don't think they stopped the run real good, Schmitty. I watched Joe Mixon run between the tackles for 100 yards and about a half for him. Then, of course, he got hurt because he's a Bengal, and the Bengals aren't supposed to win because they suck. But, I mean, when I look at this, I think Jacksonville can run the ball. I think they can keep that high-powered offense off the field. They've done it earlier in the year. And let's face it, Jacksonville's got a really good defense. The pass rush is really good. So I think the key is this. If Bortles does not turn the ball over like he did in San Francisco, like he did in Tennessee the last week of the season, I think they can win the game. And since I'm 3 back, I'm going to take a shot at it. I'm going to take the Jaguars. The last game, Matt, we'll let you go first because, let's face it, I'm 3 games back, and I want to know what you're picking so I can go the other way. New Orleans at Minnesota. Minnesota's favored by 4.5.
Very tough game. This could be the best game of the postseason, just because the defense in Minnesota really is something special this year. They stop the run as good as anybody. Their pass defense is fantastic. They got a guy, Harrison Smith, who could be MVP or defensive MVP, and he didn't even make the Pro Bowl. I do think it's going to be tough for the offense. I think New Orleans is on a bit of a roll. I really like the rushing attack. I like Drew Brees in the playoffs. I don't think obviously the weather is not going to be a problem. It's going to be a dome. Great game. I am going to take New Orleans to win the game, though. I'm going to say they get some points on the board. I'm going to say 31-27 New Orleans.
All right, Jeff?
Yeah, I just don't think that this I was a senior in college when Sean Payton was a freshman, so I know him very well and have deep respect for him and what he's done with this restructuring of this offense. In a very quick order with the running of the ball and acquiring Max Unger, the center from Seattle. It's kind of interesting how Seattle now, their offensive line is not as efficient. You take the one horse out of that equation and add it to New Orleans, and now you got this magical running game. So I think they get back to what they do best. I think the Camaro will probably have 7 or 8 catches. I think they'll get back to their touches. They kind of got away from that last week. So I look for New Orleans to play really well, and then I go back to the quarterback factor. Keenum's had a great year, really, really played well. But in the playoffs, we're talking about Drew Brees, and we're talking about just those little things. And all of a sudden he'll make a little move in the pocket, make a big throw in a tight window or a back shoulder, and those guys just seem to do it like it's nothing. They've done it so many times. So I look for New Orleans to win. I think it'd be close early. But I would say something like 29-19, New Orleans.
All right, Coop.
Wow. This is a tough game for me to pick. I like Drew Brees, and I like him in the playoffs, and I like what he's done, and I like him as a quarterback. And Jeff made a lot of sense. I think it's going to be a lot closer, more like a 24-21 game. I haven't, I honestly, like I said last week, when the Vikings game, we knew it was coming up, and I've just not watched them a lot this year, but what I have watched on highlights and such, I still like what I see with the Saints and Drew Brees in the playoffs. So they seem to be, kind of in sync. So I'm picking the Saints and Drew Brees. I'm going to go 24-21.
All right, Schmitty?
Yeah, if this was outside, even though Minnesota's played better on the road, but I mean, if it was outside, it's supposed to be snow and 13 degrees in Minnesota, so that would be one thing. But in the dome, the way New Orleans playing, I just think Drew Brees is an X factor that in the playoffs. I think that New Orleans has great weapons, both able to run the football. For many years, it was, Drew Brees had to throw the football and had to throw it successfully for them to win. They didn't have much, of a running game. They've got that now on top of still Drew Brees being able to throw the football. So I think they'll beat Minnesota. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm going to say 28-27.
All right. I'm going with the Vikings. I like the defense. And no, Matt, this is a game that's a toss-up that I actually think the Vikings will squeak out. I like them at home. I know it's Minnesota. It's kind of like picking Kansas City or Cincinnati to win a playoff game. But I think Sean Payton's a great coach. I know like 3 weeks ago we sat here and picked our Super Bowl, and I picked the Saints to win it all. But I like Mike Zimmer a lot also. I think he's a great defensive coach. I think that he's had a couple weeks to get his team ready here. My biggest concern is the Drew Brees against Case Keenum. But I think also that if Minnesota can take away the run game from New Orleans, I think that they'll have a lot more success being able to shut them down. Plus, they may be in a dome, which is more conducive than running all over the place. But it's also a lot more conducive to all those Minnesota people making a lot of noise to make life difficult. And not necessarily for Brees, because he's seen it all before, but for the wide receivers and the offensive linemen that are trying to play also. So I'm going to take Minnesota 24-23. And I think that's all 4 games for the week. If I'm right on all 3, Matt, we'll be tied.
Well, I'm going to change my pick, Mike, to Minnesota. So I want to hear you now say why New Orleans is going to win. And go.
All right. I'm going to take the Saints because Drew Brees is a lot better than Case Keenum.
I know what the most important thing to you is winning that contest. So
no, it's not, because right now I'm winning the playoffs, so that's the only thing that matters. It's like all those years where the Bengals win the divisional playoff or win the division, but then they go and lose to Pittsburgh in the wild card. You can't really say you're the division champion.
Let me get this straight. All these shows, you guys never pick the scores? I don't understand.
No, we just picked a game.
That's a good point.
I know, but now we got Jeff. And see, Coop was always like, please don't add numbers. Please don't add numbers. I went to the U.
I started a trend. I love it.
And Brian's from Ohio, and Matt's from Wisconsin, so I'm the only one that could really count good.
Well, if you take your shoes off, you can get 10.
You can't even say formidable.
It's formidable. I don't care what you English-speaking people say. It's formidable. Jeff, do you say formidable?
No, I say formidable.
There you go.
Oh.
And that's Jimmy Garoppolo's quarterback coach, Matt.
Says it too.
And Matt's a huge 49ers fan.
Coach.
It sounds a little, I don't know, feminine to call it, formidable. Doesn't that sound feminine to you, Jeff? Because when I lived back in the 70s and the 80s, nobody ever walked around saying, you're very formidable. It just sounds gay.
I just want to bring up that Mike talking about counting. The only way he can count is when he takes off his shoes, and even then, it only gets him to 9.5. So we really need to not talk about Mike and counting.
Is that supposed to be funny? You live in Columbus, Ohio, and you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. That's the epitome of slow.
Actually, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, so
Oh, okay, that's so much better. Now you don't talk with an accent, so you're not from there. So you're from Columbus, Ohio.
Actually, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
You can't live somebody. Oh, nobody admits to that.
Everybody admits to that. It's a great place to be born.
It's a great
You just
place to
wanna
get
move away
black
from it
lung
after you're born.
disease. That's about it.
I do have a serious question
Sure.
for Jeff. Jeff, I was not, forgive my ignorance. I didn't realize that quarterbacks worked a lot with private coaches in the manner that Mike informed me. I mean, I'm sure. I guess I figured that they did, some, especially if they wanted to work on a technique, but I didn't realize it was to the extent that Mike told me. How did you get into working with NFL quarterbacks the way that you do?
Well, I played with I was drafted by the Bengals in '83, and then I got out or was thrown out, and then of the league, and then went into private business. And as my oldest child got to be about 8, 9, 10 years old, I started working with him and applying some of the old school tactics that I was taught. And the more I did it with him, the more kids that kind of came, and the more kids that showed up, the better they got. And then I decided after being in private business that my passion was really football. And then along comes Garrapolo, and a few things happen here or there, and before you know it, it just it's evolved to this thing. And then subsequently, the new collective bargaining agreement now, players cannot have very little interaction with their coaches in the off season, and now they string this thing out over 12, 14 weeks. Well, when you're a quarterback or a golfer or a professional tennis player, whatever it may be, you can't take 14 weeks off because your stroke can get out of whack.
Right.
And so they need to be in rhythm, and they need to be accurate with the ball, and they need to be getting better because there's certain throws they all have to make in rhythm on time. And the window is narrowed now for them because once they start up, they want to put as much of the offense in as possible. So, yeah, it's a lot of work. And E.J. Manuel came to me last year, 55 days, basically to live with me in the off season. So he got himself turned around, and it's just information back and forth, and develop my own system that works, and use old school tactics is what I really do.
Yeah,
and
I also wanted to bring up this. You've got a website, and people can follow you on Twitter, too, if they have any questions. If they have a son that is in college looking to make the next leap, where do they find you at?
Yeah, it's throwitdeep.com, and my general manager's number's on there. And ironically, I was in Charlotte this weekend with the National Coaches Conference and met with about 12 head coaches down there about a consulting business I'm starting up, going into colleges and working with their quarterback coaches and assessing their current quarterback situation. And it's going very well. And then, because a lot of these young quarterback coaches are 29, 30, 31 years old, and, I've been throwing footballs 45 years. So normally I see it a little differently than they do and can kind of educate them a little bit on cause and effect and individual drills for individual guys that can help them stay halfway sharp. So it's going very well.
All right. And, of course, we've got Matt with Dexter Carter on the 49ers show. I think you got William Floyd on tomorrow, correct, Matt?
That's correct. Yep, just talked to both of them tonight. We're going to do a little bit more of a season review than we did last week, and then also talk about some stories when they were teammates together. So,
all right. And then, of course, you're going to have Jeff on the next couple weeks.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Jim, I met Jim because of his high school coach, Doug Millsaps, called me, who was a backup quarterback at Tennessee when he was a player, and asked me, could I come look at this kid he thinks he may find his next quarterback. So I met Jim when he was 16, and it's been a long, gratifying road, and he just keeps getting better, and he's handled that whole situation, I think, very well. It was interesting when we talked about when he went to New England about interacting with Tom and how to do so. And after watching it and listening to all the things that have been said, I think that Tom really has a deep respect and appreciation for Jim because he just is one of those kids that just understands the moment and doesn't try to be too heavy on a guy or too intrusive. and very respectful of Tom. And I think Tom's genuinely happy for him. So it says a lot about Jim and how he handles situations, which means he handles the locker room probably pretty well. And the players are gravitating to him, and much like Kirk Cousins, it's a lot of this stuff that comes down to respect. And it's been gratifying to watch him handle this whole situation.
All right,
Matt,
Boy, I tell you.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Go
I
ahead.
just want to say, that's one of the biggest things that I noticed. Just watching him play, but also watching any of the film, any of the footage I can find where they show the interaction in the locker room and the interaction on the sidelines. The biggest thing to me is how the players respond to him since he's come to San Francisco. It's been great to watch.
Yeah, it's a real art in doing that. And I think these young kids coming out, a lot of these young people get a hold of them that are more around their age. And it's more the social media chest bump, hat backwards, type of concept where they don't understand. And Coop, I hammer these kids on, if that offensive line is not playing hard for you, then you can be as good as you think you are. On Sunday, you're going to be in for a little bit of a shell shock. And so that comes down to good old-fashioned work and respect and appreciation and all those key components. And I think, for instance, Jim going out there to Frisco, I would venture to say that the young kid from Iowa that was playing the 2 or 3 games ahead of him, I would venture to say that he probably gave that kid complete respect and complete, he wasn't trying to be too intrusive with that kid. And players sit around, as Coop will tell you, and they assess this. They, not just the conversations, but body language, how you handle things. And Jim's just a good dude. And he's learned when to be stern and demanding, and he's learned when to back off and be jovial, and those are all key things. And one of the proudest things I've been associated with is Drew Stanton, who I've had for 3 years, and we've become very close. And now, since I've met Drew, he's 10-5 as a starter, and wins his last 2 games on a torn ACL. And
Right.
And if you go back and watch those last 2 games, that offensive line, that team played hard for him. And as Coop will tell you, when in weeks 14, 15, and 16, if you know you're not in the playoffs, it's not easy to get offensive linemen to put themselves on the line for you. And that's just complete respect. And that's kind of what I saw with Jim and the players around him the last 5 weeks. I saw players giving some serious effort.
Yeah, and that's always good. The only problem is this, Jeff, and the fact is I'm a Bengals fan and Matt's a 49er fan, and I was really enjoying making fun of him the last couple of years. And I can speak for, I think, Coop and Schmidt, too. They were having fun doing it, too, and Jimmy's kind of messed that up for the 3 of us.
So I won't be back. I won't be invited back on. Which okay.
Oh, you'll be invited back on. But what I'm hoping is maybe you can get in Jimmy's ear and tell him maybe Cleveland's not so bad. You could be a free agent there.
Yeah, I got to say, Jeff, I'm really looking forward to Jimmy Garrapolo bringing a winning record to kind of turn around this whole narrative on the Pick'em shows. Yeah, they definitely have had their fun with me.
Yeah, but see, I think A.J. McCarron would look really good in a 49ers uniform.
It's interesting to me because no one's talking about, I think, a very key component in this whole equation. And
Jeff.
Pierre Garçon comes back next year on top of it.
Right. Go ahead, Coop.
Hey, what I think Jeff, and you can attest to this, but what I've seen over the last probably, 5-6 years, a lot of different private coaches popping up. There's a guy, Charles Bentley down in Arizona, and he works with a lot of NFL guys, and he works with some college guys. He worked with Bowles, who's a left tackle out here, and you're starting to see a lot more of that from guys going into the private sector and working with guys on a one-on-one basis. And I'll tell you what, I think it makes a world of difference. But the issue I think you still run into is you get, an NFL coach who, who's in the good old boy system, and he kind of screws guys up during the season. You know what I mean? And you have to kind of fix them in the off season and/or fix them on the side. And then they get into a little bit of a conflict with their coach because their coach is asking them one thing and you're telling them another. And typically, I'll be very honest with you, I think the private coaches are better than some of the NFL coaches.
Yeah, I would agree with you to a point. In the quarterback world, that's not so, in my opinion. What I've done, I think, a decent job of, and I was criticized very heavily for it 10 years ago. I work very little with guys on, if you see cover 6 against this, remember you should get out of this and go to this. Don't do this, do that. I do none of that. All I do is I say, okay, what's your structure of your route? What's your route structure on this play? Okay, well, if we're going to throw this, we're going to do it this way. We're going to make you move this way, make you move that way, make you do this, make you do that. When you decide you're going to throw it based on what I tell you to do, then we're going to assess your technique and your accuracy and your spin and all that stuff, and if the ball's caught in the right spot on the field or whatnot. So I don't get involved at all in what the coaches do.
Oh,
so now, as a
okay.
result,
that's a whole interesting play, yeah.
Yeah, I just teach them the stroke, and so what happens with me now is I had 3 NFL quarterback coaches call me today. So I've got probably 12 guys kind of partnering with me quietly, and so it's all technique, feet, knees, hips, how you get your feet down, what you're doing with your torso on certain throws, drills to do, drills not to do, what keeps guys accurate throughout the season. So I'm much more of a swing coach than I am getting involved in the mental aspects of the game whatsoever with these guys, because I think that's intrinsic to the coach.
Got it.
All right, Brian,
what about college guys? Do you do any college guys?
Yeah, I got probably 150 college guys, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I think what Coop's talking about is offensive line coaches, which I do think the private coaches a lot of times are better than what you got in the NFL, Coop.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, I can't tell you how many college coaches I watch film on and I go, oh, shit. You know what I mean? Or you go, oh, my God.
Yeah, they can't catch step. They're leaning forward. Yeah, it's terrible sometimes. Brian, do you have anything to add?
I tell you, I've been, coaching right now. This has been probably the best about 15 minutes of the end of this show that we've ever had. Just being able to listen and do this because I coach quarterbacks as well as I've done everything else, and I love coaching quarterbacks. So it's great to hear a lot of things. So I definitely want to be able to check out more of what he does.
Yeah, and I think the big problem, Coop, that you'll find is with quarterback coaches, especially at the lower levels, whether it's a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, or a 16-year-old, there's a lot of guys go in here that lie to kids big time, tell them they know things they don't know, and screw kids up because I've got probably 12 8th grade to 12th grade quarterbacks right now that are starters that when I got them, I mean, they were already starters, and they didn't know just simple rudimentary things that they're supposed to know.
Rudimentary.
I know. I knew you were going to say it. But you know what? It made my job very formidable.
Yeah, okay. I got you.
Just don't ask rudimentary. How many letters are in rudimentary?
I like to know how many letters and shut the hell up, Mr. 49er fan. Your team still won less games than the mighty Cincinnati Bengals, man.
Oh, look at the change subjects now.
And the Denver Broncos won less than the 49ers.
If I could say something to Coop, I'd be interested in his opinion on this. What I'm seeing with this new college shotgun mania offensive structure in every single college now, don't block the defensive end, block down, turning free, do that little read option, RPO stuff. We have a real problem in the game today with offensive tackles. The fact that they cannot, they can, but the NFL hasn't made the adjustment, it doesn't seem to me, because of these guys coming off the edge like Von Miller, who they're running 4-5-5 off the edge. If I'm a general manager, I no longer want a 325-pound offensive tackle because we're not playing that style. We're not playing that style of game anymore. The Anthony Munozes of the world, a teammate of mine, they kind of disappeared. That 292-pound guy who can dance with the feet and take that guy on one-on-one, and now they require help a lot of times on the edge, and speaking of the Bengals, when they wouldn't sign Wentworth back and the Rams picked him up, and all of a sudden Goff has no problem on his blind side because of one guy. I think he had one penalty and allowed one sack. All of a sudden, their whole world changed. But we have a real shortage of offensive tackles that can play one-on-one, and if you can't do that, I don't care who you are at quarterback, you're gonna struggle.
Yeah,
you are, and that's the problem. I talked about that all year I'm on a show here in town with Gil Whiteley, and I talk about the offensive line on a 15-minute segment, or I go in for an hour of the 2-hour show, and we talk. But the right and left tackle are kind of a dying breed in what we've seen in the past. And what you say, like Anthony Munoz and Ryan Clady and those kinds of guys that are you got to shut down quarterback, you got to shut down left tackle, right, or right tackle now because you got them coming off both ends. So that is a big issue, and I agree with you. I mean, Bowles was an example out here. He's right at 295, 300 pounds, and he's getting the job done. Whereas you get some guys in the 320, 330, 360 range, and they can't open their hips and move, and they've basically eaten themselves out of the game. So what I see is going to happen is you're starting to run into a deficiency of right and left tackles that can kick step and play at that high of a level. So I think what's going to happen, I think you're going to start seeing a wing or a H-back or more chipping going on, because even when the offensive line in Denver was struggling, they weren't even the offensive coordinators, and I see it around the league, aren't chipping enough. I see the Patriots own Von Miller every time they play us, you know what I mean? But we don't own the other guys around the league when we're playing them when the tackle needs help. So will that eventually change the structure of the offense to that, going back to the read option like the colleges are, if you start running out of tackles? That's very possible.
Yeah, I think it's a real problem, and if I'm a general manager, I'm drafting only tackles. And the two tackles that aren't the best that can't do that, I stick them down at guard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing is this. If you look at the draft this year, Coop, I think this is the best draft for offensive tackles in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I've looked at some of those tackles, and they aren't exactly fleet at foot.
Orlando Brown from Oklahoma is terrible.
Yeah, and he's ranked, 1 or 2?
Yeah, there's no – I like McGlinchey from Notre Dame.
They play too high.
I like McGlinchey from Notre Dame.
Yeah. He's not bad, but again, some of these guys get so big, they get so stiff, and they don't get their hips open. And like as an example, Bowles is a prototypical, comes out of Boise State, and he puts his foot back so far, he's kicking so deep, he's getting punched back into the quarterback. So there's a happy medium on a little bit of a 45-degree angle step and not kicking as hard immediately, you know what I mean, and getting run underneath too at the same time. So there's a happy medium there, but I think the offensive tackle spot is critical on all teams. And was it who said it, Brian or Matt or somebody said I'm drafting all tackles and the ones that don't fit play a guard, because it's easier to move down than it is move out.
Yeah, if you look at the Bengals, they drafted a wide receiver and a running back last year, and they let their 2 best offensive linemen go away. So you can't be surprised when all of a sudden you've got a losing record. And no matter how much talent you got, you're not going to win with an offensive line like that. And I think the other problem is this. You look at a guy like Cedric Ogbuehi, the Bengals wasted a first-round pick on, and Jake Fisher. Those are smaller guys that are supposed to be these great athletes, but they don't kick step worth of crap. They have a tendency to lean forward. They can be beat all day, which they were, which is why Andy Dalton gets sacked 40-some times during the season. And I still think it comes back to coaching in the end, and I think colleges – when you get an air raid, you get all these systems that are not conducive to an NFL lineman, you don't have to teach them to kick step as much. If you're in the air raid, Schmitty, you can kick step straight back and be safe because it's 1 or 2 steps and the ball's gone.
Yeah, I mean the air raid as far as offensive line, it's a vertical step, and you're not seeing guys pound the post. The idea is to mirror guys and stay in front, the ball's going to be out. So technique-wise, you don't see the good technique that you saw back years ago because there's not a concern about it. So now that's why when you see these guys, they just don't look very good. And when they get in the NFL, and it's worse because for a lot of these guys, they've been dealing with an air raid type of teaching for offensive linemen, or the RPOs and all that. They've been dealing with that since junior high, so they haven't been taught anything from a young age all the way up through high school, all the way up through college. And so then you get them to the professional level, and they're at a huge disadvantage.
All right, guys, we're getting close to an hour, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. We'll get final comments. Matt, go ahead.
Well, just want to say great to talk to all you guys. And, Jeff, thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to talking to you further, and I hope you'll be on our 49ers show.
You're welcome. It'd be great.
All right. Brian.
Go Steelers.
Oh, Jesus. Coop, after that moronic comment, you don't have a very formidable. I don't really have a finish for it. I just wanted to say formidable like I was some English fairy. Go ahead.
Again, I'm looking forward to the Atlanta-Philly game because I just want to watch both those offensive lines, see who dominates the defensive line, and I think that's going to be the telltale. So I'm looking forward to Atlanta, the Philadelphia game.
All right, Jeff, go ahead and make final comments, and we'd love to have you back sometime, maybe next week even.
Yeah, no, it was really a pleasure and good talking to Coop. I remember watching Coop play, and he was a grinder, and I think we have to get back to that old school teaching mentality of these kids. Or if we don't, I think the game is really going to suffer because now with the new practice rules and the fact they can't practice that much, the old school teachers need to be really involved because the injury factor is not going to go away anytime soon because they have less reps in practice. So yeah. I love the game. I love being in the game. I love helping the kids. It's the greatest character building experience in the world. We just got to be careful and make sure we have the right people involved in it. And it's been a real pleasure thus far. And
for anybody that wants any more information on you, don't make fun of me, Coop. Where did they find that again? Was it throwitdeep.com? Yeah, throwitdeep.com. It's a very formidable website. That see, it makes you feel it makes you feel feminine when you say it that way, doesn't it, Jeff? Yes, it does. Thank you. But we help kids from all ages, from 10 to NFL, and I've got a team of 12 guys, and it's going very well. All right, guys, and remember, 49ers show, William Floyd, Dexter Carter with Matt Andruscavage tomorrow on thegruelingtruth.net. Make sure you check that out. Also, we've got 2 Legends of Boxing shows tomorrow. Tomorrow, live at noon, I'll have former heavyweight champion Larry Holmes on the show. Once again, that's noon Eastern on thegruelingtruth.net. And tomorrow night, I'll have former heavyweight contender Jose Rebalta on. Also, we have our Natural Health show tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So, you can go to iTunes, download the Grueling Truth app, follow us at Grueling Truth, and, of course, the website, thegruelingtruth.net. So, for Jeff Christensen, Mark Cooper, Brian Schmidt, Matt Andruscavage, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.